Thanks for joining me for another reading through the Bible in chronological order. We are in Job chapter 35 today, reading through chapter 37. Then Elihu continued saying, "Do you think it is just when you say, 'I am righteous before God'? For you ask, 'What does it profit you, and what benefit comes to me if I do not sin?' I will answer you, and your friends with you. Look at the heavens and see. Gaze at the clouds high above you. If you sin, how does it affect God? If you multiply your transgressions, what does it do to him? If you are righteous, what do you give him? Or what does he receive from your hand? Your wickedness affects a person like yourself, and your righteousness a son of man. People cry out because of severe oppression. They shout for help because of the power of the mighty. But no one asks, 'Where is God my Maker?' Who provides us with songs in the night, who gives us more understanding than the animals of the earth, and makes us wiser than the birds of the sky?" There they cry out, but he does not answer because of the pride of evil people. Indeed, God does not listen to empty cries, and the Almighty does not take note of it. How much less when you complain that you do not see him, that your case is before him, and you are waiting for him. But now, because God's anger does not punish, and he does not pay attention to transgression, Job opens his mouth in vain and multiplies words without knowledge. Then Elihu continued, saying, "Be patient with me a little longer, and I will inform you, and there is still more to be said on God's behalf. I will get my knowledge from a distant place and ascribe justice to my Maker. Indeed, my words are not false. One who has complete knowledge is with you. Yes, God is mighty, but he despises no one. He understands all things. He does not keep the wicked alive, but he gives justice to the oppressed. He does not withdraw his gaze from the righteous, but he seats them forever with enthroned kings, and they are exalted. If people are bound with chains and trapped by the cords of affliction, God tells them what they have done and how arrogantly they have transgressed. He opens their ears to correction and tells them to repent from iniquity. If they listen and serve him, they will end their days in prosperity and their years in happiness. But if they do not listen, they will cross the river of death and die without knowledge. Those who have a godless heart harbor anger. Even when God binds them, they do not cry for help. They die in their youth. Their life ends among male cult prostitutes. God rescues the afflicted by their affliction. He instructs them by their torment. Indeed, he lured you from the jaws of distress to a spacious and unconfined place. Your table was spread with choice food, yet now you are obsessed with the judgment due the wicked. Judgment and justice have seized you. Be careful that no one lures you with riches. Do not let a large ransom lead you astray. Can your wealth or all your physical exertion keep you from distress? Do not long for the night when nations will disappear from their places. Be careful that you do not turn to iniquity, for that is why you have been tested by affliction. Look, God shows himself exalted by his power. Who is a teacher like him? Who has appointed his way for him? And who has declared, 'You have done wrong'? Remember that you should praise his work, which people have sung about. All mankind has seen it. People have looked at it from a distance. Yes, God is exalted beyond our knowledge. The number of his years cannot be counted, for he makes water drops evaporate. They distill the rain into its mist, which the clouds pour out and shower abundantly on mankind. Can anyone understand how the clouds spread out, or how the thunder roars from God's pavilion? See how he spreads his lightning around him and covers the depths of the sea. For he judges the nations with these. He gives food in abundance. He covers his hand with lightning and commands it to hit its mark. The thunder declares his presence, the cattle also, the approaching storm. My heart pounds at this and leaps from my chest. Just listen to his thunderous voice and the rumbling that comes from his mouth. He lets it loose beneath the entire sky, his lightning to the ends of the earth. Then there comes a roaring sound. God thunders with his majestic voice. He does not restrain the lightning. When his rumbling voice is heard, God thunders wondrously with his voice. He does great things that we cannot comprehend. For he says to the snow, fall to the earth, and the torrential rains, his mighty torrential rains, serve as his sign to everyone in mankind, so that all men may know his work. The wild animals enter their lairs and stay in their dens. The windstorm comes from its chamber, and the cold from the driving north winds. Ice is formed by the breath of God, and watery expanses are frozen. He saturates clouds with moisture. He scatters his lightning through them. They swirl about, turning round and round in his direction, accomplishing everything he commands them over the surface of the inhabited world. He causes this to happen for punishment, for his land, or for his faithful love. Listen to this, Job. Stop and consider God's wonders. Do you know how God directs his clouds or makes his lightning flash? Do you understand how the clouds float, those wonderful works of him who has perfect knowledge? You whose clothes get hot when the south wind brings calm to the land. Can you help God spread out the skies as hard as a cast metal mirror? Tell us what we should say to him. We cannot prepare our case because of our darkness. Should he be told that I want to speak? Can a man speak when he is confused? Now no one can even look at the sun after a wind has swept through and cleared the sky. Out of the north he comes, shrouded in a golden glow. Awesome majesty surrounds him, the Almighty. We cannot reach him. He is exalted in power. He will not violate justice and abundant righteousness. Therefore men fear him. He does not look favorably on any who are wise in heart. As Elihu's speech concludes, you'll notice his intentional mention to describe God in the language of a thunderstorm, the encroaching clouds and the power of the thunder, the lightning strikes, all of that, he says, signifies the presence of God. Of course, when God does speak, he's going to speak out of a whirlwind. So perhaps behind the language of what Elihu is speaking is this encroaching thunderstorm that has God in it. Or he's just simply using metaphor to describe God that way. But it's important to note that Elihu's view of God is very well defined. He describes God in very clear, worthy, glorious, exalted. God is exalted beyond our knowledge. But in that same picture that Elihu has of God, I'm trying to find my verse. Where he really understands God to be the source of everything, and that for Job, Elihu's view is Elihu is attributing to Job the very same thing his friends have, the enormity of his transgression. Even in chapter 35, he'll say, verse 15, God's anger does not punish, and he does not pay attention to transgression. Job opens his mouth in vain and multiplies words without knowledge. Job, he says, you've had so much sin in your life that God is not even paying you for what your real duty or your real punishment should be. So I want you to notice that as we read through this, all the friends miss the mark. There are things that all three of them say, or four of them say, I should say, the three friends and Elihu, true things about God. But Elihu believes he's defending God, and the only way to defend God is to condemn Job. And that's not the way it works. So join me again for another reading tomorrow as we begin our wrap up of the book of Job with the answer from God. Thank you for joining me for this reading through the Bible.